Dan Wass again, nationally recognized Second Amendment advocate and spokesperson. He's author of the book, you've heard about it, Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical. And he's also got another book, Good Gun, Bad Guy 2, Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. Dan, my friend, how's it going, sir?
Hey, Paul, great to be back on your show talking to you again. How are you? How's everything in Arkansas?
We're doing good here, you know. I mean, we're facing a lot of, tax increases, waiting on those tax cuts to kick in. But we're making it. What can you tell us about this? Certainly, I don't know if it's as bad as what you're facing up there in New York, but what can you tell us about Democrats moving toward bringing impeachment inquiry public? What do you know about all this?
Well, it looks to me like it's really just a sideshow. The whole thing is a sideshow. I think to avoid, really talking about, what John Durham is doing and the investigation that's happening on Democrats. Because how could they talk about that in the media? How could they make that the center of attention after they've been, after they pushed the Russian hoax for so long? And also they have so many skeletons in their closet. You're talking about skeletons hanging in the front yards. They have a lot of skeletons in their closet. I mean, what happened to Epstein? Why don't we have any investigation on that? What happened to those cameras? And there's so much stuff going on the Democratic side. I think this is really and kudos to them. It's a good distraction tactic.
I mean, it really is. That's what this whole thing has been forever. And here's the thing. I mean, I think they are really concerned about not only John Durham and Bill Barr, but the fact that those intelligence agencies across the Atlantic, Italy, for example, they went to Italy. That kind of seems to be where all of this started when they went to Italy back at the end of September. I think the Democrats became very concerned because they know that they've got the goods on what happened. It really, at this point, is just how do you reveal it to the American people? I mean, we know the news media is not going to be honest about it. So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, we know that there was a massive amount of corruption. We know that the Trump campaign was spied on. We know that Mueller didn't find anything, and they said he would forever. And so it's, we've got now the CIA looking like they're trying to finish what the FBI couldn't do to Trump. It is extremely worrisome. I mean, I just don't know how you reveal it to the people,
Yeah, well, you mentioned Mueller. I mean, everyone was really scared about Mueller. They made Mueller out to be this huge Democrat, weapon. And boy, when you saw him answering questions, he was just weak and ineffective and pathetic, I thought, watching him. So, it just goes to show you that the Democrats really don't have anything, and the media's been in their back pocket the whole time. How do they turn this around? They can't defeat Trump. They know he's going to win in 2020. They know he's got they have criminal investigations against them. This is really just, I believe it's propaganda. I think it's just really a distraction. And, it's kind of fun. If you can look at it from that perspective and through that lens, it's kind of fun to watch them scramble like this and try to create this Ukrainian scandal out of thin air.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like everything they accused the Trump and Republicans of doing in Russia that wound out not to be true, the Democrats were actually doing in Ukraine. And let me ask you this. We're talking with Dan Wass, again, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy. You're up in New York. Now, I know you're not in the what I would consider the bad parts of New York, but seriously, they're two Americas. I mean, you can talk with people and you immediately know where they're getting their news from. And I was just telling folks, it looks like to me, most of the time, 90% of the time, if you hear it on CNN, you can believe the complete opposite of what they're telling you, and you're correct. That's a dangerous place to be, because if the person in power, let's say on the right, let's say it is Trump, if he actually were to do something that was bad, that was illegal, like they always claim, now I'm not going to believe him at all.
Yeah, well, liberals and conservatives used to be able to live together and get along, but there's been such a divide, and I think it's because the media has managed to define the two ideologies. They've really managed to bring it out to the public and define it with clarity. In other words, liberals really want that socialist. They want that government control. They want that controlled environment, because I believe that they feel safe in that environment. I believe, and the reason they do, I think, is because it takes all responsibility out. That's why the victim mentality is part of it. That's why those people are attracted to the Democrat side, because they believe that government should take care of them. On the other side of the spectrum, though, on the political spectrum, you have conservatives who really are realizing now how important it is to fight for our freedom and what our founding fathers fought for in the beginning. I want to be free. This is why I'm in this country. This is what I believe in. I support the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and I'll do what I want when I want, and I will take full responsibility for my failures, but I also expect to reap the rewards of my successes. Two completely different ideologies, and I think the media has been successful in making it crystal clear, in defining and characterizing those stark differences. We can't seem to live together now because of those differences, and that's the thing that's going to have to change. Whether we start to accept each other a little bit more and understand and not infringe on each other's rights and all live harmoniously, or whether it comes down to some type of civil war, and I hope that never happens. But something has to happen at this point.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there about we hope that never happens. But there are people who have speculated that this seems to be where the divisions are heading. You're not the only one to speculate that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where we go from here on that point, because. Let's just get back to, you mentioned Durham at the very beginning. Okay, let's say Durham, and let's say Barr, and let's say Huber. I mean, if they actually bring and indict Andrew McCabe, which according to one report I saw, they offered Andrew McCabe a plea deal. He didn't take it, so Durham impaneled a grand jury. If they actually perp walk James Comey, if they get Brennan, they get Clapper, if they get these guys who have committed what I believe are it's very clear what they've done. The media is going to say that President Trump is, we're basically a banana republic. President Trump's a dictator. And just like he investigated, Joe Biden, or asked the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden or whatever, even though there wasn't a quid pro quo, that they're just, that's what they're going to tell everybody. And I just think it will certainly further and widen that divide of people who think that we've been taken over or something,
Yeah, no, you're right, but they do it in a heartbeat.
Correct.
That's the ironic piece of the whole. They would do it, and they're doing it right now by trying to impeach our president. I guess the good news is, we may have family members who are, family members or friends who are more of the liberal progressive, mindset, and we do understand. We get along. We still, care for them, and so I don't know that it's all as bad as the media makes it. So that's a big piece. The media is going to play a huge role in this thing. And if the media could just tweak their intent, their process, their propaganda, if they could just tweak it just a little bit to not be so far left, I think it would start to bring people together. But obviously, they don't want to do that right now, and we have to ask ourselves, well, why? Do they really want it to fall apart?
Yeah, I think they've got a lot to lose. I mean, I think the media itself has a lot of secrets that we don't know about, just in terms of them being connected with maybe even a lot of the stuff that we're going to find out that's been going on as well. And so I think there's a lot of personal protection going on with them. But to your point, yeah, I mean, where I live here in Arkansas, I know there are people that disagree with my political philosophy, but I'm still able to interact with them in public and open the door for this person or be polite to that person. And honestly, here's the other thing that I think we're missing here. I think the president's popularity is so high. I mean, I think we're possibly looking at a landslide, which would really blow up the narrative we were just talking about, how divided we are. I mean, I know we are in certain circumstances, but maybe that is, though. Maybe, it's all just like they were saying Hillary Clinton can't lose. Maybe we're actually a lot more unified than we even know.
Well, that's a good. Yeah, I mean, you're saying. I think what you're saying is that there's a lot of maybe even Democrats that'll start voting for Trump. People who we wouldn't think, would be voting for him. I guess on one hand, it's a nice thought to believe, and I
Yeah.
believe it may be true. But do we want to get overconfident too? And that could hurt us at the polls. People may think that we got it in a landslide and it's not going to be a problem, and they don't go out to vote. That scares me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I will say the Trump campaign is doing something that is so underreported at all of these rallies. The people coming in, they're getting their information, and then they're running them through voter registration, and they're finding out, 20, 30% of the people attending Trump rallies are registered Democrats. So,
wow.
That's very underreported statistic, but that's and I think again that's what's fueling their trying to remove him because they can't beat him. I want to remind everybody, Dan, about your book, okay? And we've talked about it several times, but folks, if you've never had a chance to check it out, The Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical. I mean, and that's really what this are. I saw, Dan, it was one of those, it was a meme or whatever, and it said that we need to start using our own language. So when they say gun lobby, when the left said the gun lobby, we need to say the civil rights lobby. It's because the gun lobby is essentially a civil rights advocacy group, aren't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. And sometimes people will use the term anti-gun. I use that term a lot. The anti-gunners I talk about. Really, they're anti-rights, and that's something that another way we could also kind of shift the perception a little bit to more of a truthful thing, because really anybody who's anti-gun, they might be fearful, they might be scared of guns, they might be hateful and angry toward gun owners, but really what they're doing is they're trying to shut down the rights of their fellow Americans. So terminology is important. The left knows how to use it fantastic, and they are just really great at it. They'll use the terms like weapons of war and assault weapon and as I say, the big daddy of them all, gun violence, which doesn't exist, by the way. It's human violence we need to talk about. But they'll use those terms to shape the narrative and to change the perception and the way people think about guns in our country. And it's very deceitful. So changing the narrative, using terms that are more appropriate is a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to your point, I saw a meme, and I guess modern gun deer season is going to open up not this weekend, but next weekend, I believe. And that means in Arkansas, on that Saturday morning, I think there's somewhere between 200,000 people, or maybe even more than that are going to be in trees with high-powered rifles and know how to use them. And there's not any big deal. There's no incidents. I mean, sometimes, there may be an accident happen here or there. There's actually a guy in Arkansas, unfortunately, that got gored by a deer and died recently. But that's not even, that wasn't even with a gun. That was just a wildlife incident. But that I saw a meme talking about somebody like, 200 million, as the deer seasons are coming in all across the country, there's 2 million hunters, who got these high-powered rifles, and they're in, and yet there's not an issue there. And so, to your point, it's about human violence. It's not about the equipment.
Yeah, definitely. And some might argue that there's half the population in America are gun owners. We don't really know how many gun owners there are. We know that there's at least a third to a half, possibly even more, because just some people just make it none of your business whether or not they own a gun. So we could have potentially more than half the population as gun owners in this country. That's something that the left just doesn't want to admit. And when you look at gun-related deaths, it's tiny. It's really a small amount. They like to use the 30 or 40,000 per year, but that's false. That's mostly suicide. I think it's like 2/3 suicides, and then a lot of cop related,
Right. Right.
gun-related deaths. So the actual homicides are relatively small,
Mm-hmm.
and and accidental deaths are minuscule, but they don't want you to know that, so they'll propagate, the exact opposite, whether true or not. So, but yeah, you're right about the hunting thing. Lots of hunters out there, and we won't see any gun-related incidents.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, when there are rare occasions when it's an accident or something, but it's not like somebody's going crazy and mass shooting. Mass shootings of deer, which is not a bad thing in my
Right.
opinion. Dan, last question. I haven't had you on since Beto O'Rourke, the Irish American who's pretending to be Hispanic, said that they're going to take our guns. Yes, hell yes, quote, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. This was something that was actually derided by Democrats because they were like, well, now we're not going to get any gun legislation passed. And I thought to myself, yeah, because he was honest. This is what we have said for a long time, right? On the right, we say their goal is to take your weapons away.
Yeah. Yeah, and they tried keeping that a secret for so long because they really didn't want that to come out because they know that that's not good for them politically. To let the people actually know that they want to confiscate guns and create this socialistic, environment, society, that's not good for them for votes. So Beto comes out and he actually says it, and they're probably, telling him, hey, shut up, what the hell are you doing? Well, Beto is an idiot. I really think he's a clown. He doesn't belong there. But the ideals, the thought process that he has, that runs through the Democratic Party. And so we don't necessarily need to be, concerned about Beto, but we do need to be concerned about that ideology and that thought process.
Absolutely. Dan Wass, I appreciate it, sir. Again, your book, you've got two of them, Good Gun, Bad Guy. You got 1 and 2. Check it out, folks. The website is goodgunbadguy.net. It's always great to talk to you, my friend.
You too, Paul. Thanks so much.